And good afternoon. I'm here with Mark Pennington, and he is doing a teaching reading intervention program that he's going to tell us all about. And this program is for ages 8 through adult. And I'm also hoping he's going to tell us a little bit about himself and about his background. And at this point, Margarita will shut up and let Mark take over. Take over, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Sam. It's so great to be here with you. We've corresponded back and forth via email and text and thing, and it's great to have one ball cap talk to another. I'm recently retired from 36 years of teaching, which I just loved every minute of it. I taught at elementary, middle school, high school, and community college levels, so lots of varied experiences. Now I serve as president, CEO, chief executive officer, et cetera, and chief bottle washer of Pennington Publishing, which consists of a vast corporate conglomerate, me, myself, and I. So that's kind of who I am and what I'm doing now. To step back in time, mentioning the ball caps, I went to USC down in Southern California, go Trojans, for 5 years, then transferred across town to UCLA. So I was a trader and a cheaper tuition, but a great teaching credential program. Then my wife and I moved up to Northern California to the Gold Country, and I got my first teaching job as a middle school English and social studies teacher. After a few years, I moved up to the high school level, teaching the same subjects. And after a while, I got to realize that a lot of the students I was teaching just didn't understand the textbooks, not to mention any lines whatsoever of Shakespeare that I was teaching. So I decided to go back to get my master's as a reading specialist at Sac State University. And there I was the odd duck, the only secondary teacher in the program, and constantly had to adapt what I was learning from my elementary teacher colleagues to back to my high school classes. Loved it, and loved the collegiality of the program. When I got a chance to serve as a literacy coach in a neighboring school district, I jumped at the chance, and I was a part of a cohort of 23 literacy coaches in this very large and growing district, right at the time when our district was making the transition from whole language to the recommendations of the National Reading Panel. During this transition years, we had every big name in reading come train us in a trainer of trainers models. Tim Rosinski, one of your buddies, was one who joined us. Isabel Beck. I mean, it was an incredible learning opportunity for me. But the state of California was one of the last holdouts on whole language. And so none of our district adopted textbooks reflected where we were going as a district. And so the 23 literacy coaches, we wound up writing curriculum for the entire district. And curriculum writing became a passion of mine. And so we were able to keep the copyright on our own material. And in 2001, Pennington Publishing was born. Woo-hoo!
Wow, all right.
My 16-year-old son designed the website. My 13-year-old son designed all the book covers. And we were in business. Pretty soon, thereafter, I got the itch to get back into the classroom to try out all the things that I was writing and find out what worked and what did not work. And so I went back to the middle school level and served as a sight reading specialist and English arts teacher. And now I have the chance, now that I'm retired, to kind of share what I've learned with teachers, and specifically with my teaching reading strategies, teaching reading intervention program for ages 8 to adults.
Okay, well, excited about all of that. I'm doing the wrong share screen right now. Oh dear. Okay. So I'm going to stop my share so that there we are. Okay. Technical glitch, and it was caused by me. All right. So I'm so excited to hear about all that. And I know that you're going to march on now and tell us all about the programs. I'm going to mention right up front that any of the things that you talk about will have links in the blog to them and the rest. And so, well, and especially since I just got done talking to some middle school folks here in Missouri at the Right to Learn conference, and I promise you, everybody that was at that session is going to get a copy of this video to have a look at because they were just looking. It's hard to find really good things to use with those middle school, and I know that's not exclusively what you do, but you've got a lot of solutions, I know. So let's have you take this over, and it's all you again, and go ahead and share your screen.
All righty, we'll get it set up. All right, very good. Well, teaching reading intervention is a program specifically designed, as I said, for ages 8 through adults. All kinds of kids, by the way, special ed, English language learners, tier 2, 3 intervention kids, and all kinds of teachers, brand newbies to teaching reading, as well as vets. So I try to cover the gamut there. The program's quite affordable. Unlike other programs I'm quite intimate with, Language Live and Read 180 cost thousands of dollars per kids per year. Since many of the teachers who are using my program purchase it on their own, I think they'll be surprised at the affordability. Teachers will also be very pleased that the program requires no supplemental training. Teachers learn as they go. Real minimal amounts of prep and correction in the program. And I think they'll see that it's written by a teacher for teachers, and that makes the difference. It's a flexible 55-minute per day program, but there are choices for extending that to say a 2-hour reading block, if teachers are so lucky to have that for their reading intervention students. Lastly, the program is a balanced program between both strands of Scarborough's rope. Most teachers are familiar with the upper and lower strands. The strands of, on the bottom, word recognition, and on the top, language comprehension. So the first half of the program, the first 18 weeks, deals with word recognition, and the last, which I want to kind of focus our time on as much as possible today, is on language comprehension, which tends to be one of the more mysterious strands of the two. So anyway, let's jump in and go over some of the word recognition slides. These slides, by the way, the program is designed in Google Slides or print, so it works nicely for both formats. Begins with quick phonemic awareness and morphological activities. Everything is done for the teachers, display and go, cool audio files, less time prep, more time teaching. The program as well provides a complete battery of assessments, placement assessments in phonics, as well as spelling. And by the way, they're not just placement assessments, Sam, they're diagnostic assessments. One thing that I believe in as a teacher, I only want to use assessments that will specifically guide my instruction. Assessing in order just to assess makes little sense to me. So the assessments are prescriptive and they're tied to resources to be able to make sense of instruction for kids. The first 3 of the days of the week, instruction is focusing, as I said, on the phonemic awareness and morphological aspects. Draw your attention here to the slide, for example. we use anchor words in order to connect the morphological parts. Unsubscribe is a whole lot easier to remember with the 3-word parts un, meaning not, sub, under, scribe, to write, than in isolation. So strength of the program is building on that memory. And so students love these activities.
I'm going to interrupt here and just say, would you go back one slide just for a second? And I want to point out to the audience the number of words that this particular prefix appears in, 3,876. Apparently, these things that you've chosen to teach were not chosen at random, huh?
No, not at all. They're high frequency words. There are a number of studies. A stall is one that determine which ones we use. So the idea is to go for, the bang for the buck, the ones that appear most often in students, not only oral language, but also in academic language.
Okay, so you've earned that label of research-based, huh?
Well, I won't claim exclusive rights to that, but I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Okay. Just wanted to point that out because I found that impressive myself. Okay. I'll be quiet.
Interrupt as much as you want. So I also have worked closely with a speech and language therapist to develop accurate mouth formations for the speech sounds, as you can see, and methods of articulation. And I've developed some catchy speech songs to go along with them. Sam, you'll have to take a listen later on to my fricative songs. I think you might find them kind of entertaining. The second activity beyond the phonemic awareness and morphological awareness deals with blending, segmenting, and spelling. So I use a synthetic phonics approach, and we are connecting the phonemes to the graphemes using animal sound spelling cards. So I'll point here to a couple of features. You notice here we've got the non-juvenile photographs here because we are focusing on older readers in this program. Sounds connected on each card. And picture mnemonics certainly help students with these letter sound associations. So as we're using the synthetic phonics approach, I use what's called connected phonation, sometimes called continuous blending. We feature focused sound spellings for each lesson. There are a total of 54 lessons, by the way, that go over this 18-week first half of the program. And so we'd go through and blend through the word. So starting with a stop sound, but then the continuous k, we would blend like this, same as I blend them, buck. Now, same as you blend them, and you would join in, Sam. Buck. Word, buck. And that's our procedure for blending. Think about this. No time-consuming board work, no grimy dry erase marker hands. It's all done on the slides, and it keeps instruction at an accelerated pace, which we know from research is so conducive to success at older student levels. So we keep things moving in the program, and we focus on 6 to 8 words in our blending. So next, what we do is we take a look at segmenting using the same words. The students will say the word and tap on their knees, the sounds. And so, of course, buck would be 3 sounds. So we segment after we blend. Now, additionally, writing and encoding is key to understanding word recognition. And so the slides allow the students to practice spellings of each of the 6 to 8 words. So using the Google Slides, students would use what's called the squiggle tool. If you haven't used it, you got to practice this thing. This is fun. And so teachers and students can practice using the correct letter formations to spell what they've been blending. Teachers love the slide resources here because they show correct letter formations. Now, if teachers are using the print versions of this, obviously, they just print on paper. So the program works equally well digitally as well as old school print.
Okay.
The next part of our blending, segmenting, and spelling activity is using our heart words. Now, if you're not familiar with heart words are those high frequency words that have one or more non-phonetic parts. And the strategy here is that we blend what we can, and then we map the part that has to be learned by heart. So in this instance, of course, it's the O spelling, but it's got that strange oo sound to it. Students learn the, I'm gonna go back there, skipped ahead, oops. They learn the heart words in the context of other similar spellings, if you can see, and similar sound spellings as well. So a powerful strategy to blend and segment and spell those heart words. Next, students get some independent practice. So they need to be able to practice what we've preached. And so they have a number of drag and drop activities in Google Slides, or certainly it can be done in print using students draw arrows in which they match the sounds to the print and the print to the sounds. We have a nice feature here using nonsense multi-syllable words in which we stay focused on those sound spellings. I call them the weirdo words. And so students will listen and practice along with modeled speaking. And last but not least, they're sorting according to the sound spelling features. And of course, independent practice with the heart words. And so here, students will drag and drop the hearts above the parts that need to be learned by heart, and we'll do a sort activity. And again, with print, kids love drawing in the hearts as much as they like dragging and dropping. My favorite part of the program, I would have to say, and I think teachers as well, is the reading part of the program. We have got to get kids reading each and every day. Can I hear an amen from there, Sam?
Well, more than an amen, I'm looking at this book right now, and you know what? I don't see any bunnies. I don't see any cute little animals. I see kids that are kids like you'd find at a middle school. And that by itself is impressive. And so I'll let you tell us more from there. And I will say that it's so important that this connection be made between, okay, now decoding the word is only half of the game. The other half of the game is then making use of that to make sense out of some text. And once again, looking at the text here, I'm thinking that this might be something that I wouldn't be embarrassed to ask a junior high kid to read.
Absolutely. In fact, they're written with high school teenage characters, plots, and those non-juvenile cartoons by my amazing illustrator. A shout out to David Rickard. Really don't treat kids like dummies. They treat kids with the kind of respect that they want to bring to reading. And we'll get into this a little bit in our language comprehension discussion, but motivation is so critical to developing reading skills. So there are 54 lessons. Each one of the lessons has a decodable book. And these decodable books focus on the sounds and spellings introduced in the lesson, as well as 2 heart words per lesson. There are 3 stories per week. So the first 3 days of the week, students will have a lesson, the phonemic awareness, morphological awareness lesson, the blending, segmenting and spelling lesson, the independent practice in both sound spellings and heart words, and then they'll jump into these books. So These books include not only cool pictures, awesome teenage-based stories, but they have 5 embedded comprehension questions. And these embedded comprehension questions, as you can see, are higher level inferential questions. They also provide areas in the digital version for margin notes so that we can get developing readers interacting with the text. And that's what reading strategies is all about, Sam.
Okay.
Lastly, but not leastly, the students practice 30-second word fluencies. And these word fluencies, of course, focus on not only on the lessons, focus sound spellings, and heart words, but they also have review components to them. Students love using the timer, and they'll click the timer, they'll read for 30 seconds and be able to record their scores. It's motivating and it's excellent, excellent practice. Now, even though the first half of my program is word recognition, you'll see here that the strategies really overlap on both strands of the rope. And Sam, you and I have talked about this, that there's an intermingling of the strands that takes place. So fluency, comprehension, vocabulary is taught each and every day during my word recognition lessons, as it should be.
Okay. Well, I'm just impressed that these are books that you could potentially make meaning of. So I've seen some of the other decodables, and I just have a hard time seeing how there's any meaning making possible with some of the way those things are done. So kudos to you. Who wrote these different books? You did. Okay, so you're. I'm talking to a published children's author as well. I'm also making a mental note that the first copyright date I see down there is 2008, and the most recent one is 2022. Gosh, it seems like you've stayed in business doing this, huh?
I've stayed in business doing this. Teachers really appreciate resources that are developed by other teachers. I got to tell you, that is the key to, I would say, a lot of teacher publisher successes, because it just exudes, hey, this has been field tested, done in the classroom with real students. So anyway, that's, I appreciate the compliment, but teachers know what works in their own classes.
Okay, continue.
Surely. Now, the last 2 days of the week, the first 3 days of the week, I've kind of articulated what goes on in the 5 activities, including the decodables. The last couple of days of the week include review activities, personal sound walls that are digitally based, or teachers can laminate them, print them, and use dry erase markers. They work really well in that format as well. Sound box answers, and Sam, you know all about sound boxes from your reading recovery background. Very effective for review. And so last 2 days of the week as well, whole class instruction in syllabication, syllable worksheets for students to independently practice what they've learned. And a real strength of the program is the diagnostic assessments. I mentioned that spelling was one of the placement assessments. Using the diagnostic information from the spelling test, students are assigned individual spelling pattern worksheets. So not every student needs review in the R control vowels. So again, leaping into that differentiated instruction is kind of where we're headed.
Music to my ears, because following the child instead of following the program is one of my mantras. And apparently you are, your program is designed to follow the child, and that's excellent.
Well, thank you. So if we're going to focus and turn our focus now to the second half of the program, and more importantly, to understand what the heck this language comprehension strand is all about, we need to talk a little bit about the the originator of the infographic, which you do not see in front of you, the reading rope. And the reason why is because Dr. Hollis Scarborough, who invented the rope infographic, her publisher is pretty tight on copyright restrictions, so I completely respect that as a publisher. And Dr. Scarborough actually created the reading rope back in the early 1990s. She did not know anything about the simple view of reading, by the way, at that time, which I find interesting. And she created it as a handout, a black and white handout to give to parents and teachers. Her reading rope was not devised for reading researchers. And by the way, it's in black and white in its simplistic form, although it's certainly been added on to by other people, because Dr. Scarborough says in an interview that color copies were just too expensive to pass out to parents and teachers. So since I'm not using her rope graphic, pun intended, I'll go with my own handout here to list the components of this other side of the reading rope. So our first one to take a look at here is background information. And background information, of course, is so critical to reading comprehension. And let's see, let me catch up here a little bit with my cheat notes here. Dr. Scarborough's first component, according to our favorite cognitive psychologist, Daniel Willingham, says that once kids are fluent decoders, a key determinant, he says, of comprehension, perhaps the, and he capitalizes the, key determinant of comprehension is what kids know about the topic of the text they're about to read. Now, I would say that that is unfortunately true. Unfortunate because all our students do not come from the same backgrounds. This background knowledge is not a level playing field. Even more unfortunately, instructional time with respect to teaching background knowledge is reductive. If we spend time on teaching background knowledge, it takes away from instructional time for other aspects of reading instruction that we know works. What reading interventions can do, and I think we need to do, is to support time allocated to social studies and science instruction. We can also teach students, though, how to apply and use background knowledge and connect it to students' prior knowledge, two different things, to make language more comprehensible. So my resource that we use to teach students how to use and apply background knowledge and connect to their prior knowledge are known as the background knowledge mentor text and response activities. And so in these activities, a literary quotation from famous authors is presented. By the way, a little different than way back in time, the Ed Hirsch cultural literacy, in that these are multicultural authors that I feature, and they're contemporaneous authors, not just old white guys in Greek togas. So we have an example here from our J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter fame, and students go through and the teacher reads the definition, explanation, reflection. They delve into observation, interpretation, and application questions. And most importantly, they learn to access their own prior knowledge and this background knowledge that they've learned from the literary quotes. And they get to share their own points of view with respect to the topic. I have the students mimic the syntax of the authors because the authors have such varied syntax that often follows other forms of sentence variety other than the subject, verb, complement. So a powerful mix you'll see in all of my language comprehension activities that we're using reading and writing as reciprocal other sides of the coin to the magic of learning literacy.
Okay, I'm going to do just a quick interruption because I know you know my views and we just talked about it ahead of time. Um, that in terms of Scarborough's rope and what I think Nell Duke did, which is a marvelous addition to the rope that not everyone agrees with. I also look at the work of Nell Duke and the importance of teaching comprehension strategies through um, gradual release. And so I'm just making mention of that, that while on the one hand, I would absolutely do, and I'm actually right now thinking about a particular administrator that's going to hear all about you because he was looking for something to use with his middle school students, and I'm most certainly going to make him aware of you. But on the other hand, that there's still that need to develop that form of comprehension as well. And that's just Sam on his soapbox. So I think what you're doing is wonderful, but I think that we also need to think about what it takes to do to create um, readers who know how to apply the reading strategies. And you may have more to say about that later on, but I couldn't avoid doing that. Uh, I'm that centrist who tries to think about everything. But on the other hand, this is
Can't be
like
said too
brilliant.
often enough.
Okay, okay, that's all said, and it's all yours again.
All righty.